A Border Patrol commander walks into a gas station in America in uniform to buy something, and the manager follows him out the door and tells him, on camera, "I don't support ICE. Nobody here does." That video went viral, and now the Trump administration is coming for them. Today, we are breaking down everything: the confrontation, the federal response, what it means for every business in America, and why this story is about something much bigger than a convenience store. Stay with me, because if you think this ends at the gas pump, you are dead wrong. Let's start at the beginning. It is January 21st, 2026, Minneapolis, Minnesota. U.S. Border Patrol Commander Gregory K. Bovino, a senior federal law enforcement officer, enters a Speedway gas station, not to conduct a raid, not to make an arrest. He is there to do what any American does, get what he needs, and go about his day. But something stops him. A manager at the store decides on their own, on the job, in a business open to the public, that this particular customer is not welcome. Commander Bovino is denied service. Then, as he walks out, the manager follows him to the door and fires off parting words that conservative activist Cam Higbee captures on video. "I don't support ICE, and nobody here does." That clip spreads like wildfire across social media. Within days, millions of people have seen the moment a uniformed federal officer is turned away from a commercial business, a business that, by the way, accepts government payment cards. Now, here is something that matters legally and logistically. Speedway is not some independent mom-and-pop corner store. Speedway is owned by 7-Eleven, Inc., the world's largest international chain of convenience stores. These locations are part of the GSA SmartPay Fleet Card program. That means federal agents, federal vehicles, federal fleets, they use these locations. They depend on them. The federal government has a working partnership with 7-Eleven. And in that Minneapolis store on January 21st, that partnership was tested in a way nobody expected. And the Trump administration, they noticed. Visual, image of GSA letterhead, government building exterior, close-up of fleet card. Fast forward to February 5th, 2026. Michael Lynch, Deputy Administrator of the General Services Administration, puts pen to paper, or rather, fingers to keyboard, and sends a formal letter to Doug Rosenkrantz, the Chief Operating Officer of 7-Eleven. This is not a tweet. This is not a press release. This is an official government communication from one of the most powerful purchasing agencies in the world. The GSA manages the federal government's massive fleet program. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of government vehicles, now from Homeland Security trucks to law enforcement SUVs. These vehicles need fuel, they need maintenance stops, and 95% of U.S. fuel stations participate in the GSA SmartPay Fleet Card program, accepted in all 50 states, U.S. territories, and Canada. And now the GSA is asking 7-Eleven COO Doug Rosenkrantz to explain what happened, and what, if anything, they plan to do about it. The letter makes clear that this incident raises concerns about the ability of federal vehicle operators to access necessary fuel and services at convenient locations. The GSA also requests information about 7-Eleven's training policies regarding fleet card acceptance. Then comes the hammer. The GSA signals it is considering stripping 7-Eleven of its fleet program partnership. Translation: if 7-Eleven cannot guarantee that federal agents will be served at their locations, the U.S. government may take its billions of dollars in fleet spending elsewhere, permanently. The letter closes with language that sounds polite but carries enormous financial weight. GSA values its partnerships with merchants who support federal operations and appreciates your prompt attention to this inquiry. Timely cooperation will assist in determining whether any program-related actions are warranted. Program-related actions. That is Washington language for cooperate or face the consequences. Now, some of you watching this might be thinking, okay, it is one store manager, one incident. Why is this a big deal? Because it is not one incident. Not even close. Let's walk through what has been happening across Minneapolis, a city that has become ground zero for the clash between the Trump administration's immigration enforcement push and a vocal, organized resistance among local businesses and community members. Case 1, the Hampton Inn, Lakeville. Immigration agents tried to book rooms at this hotel in Minneapolis. They were denied service. The GSA stepped in and removed the Hampton Inn Lakeville from its list of approved lodging for federal employees, even after Hilton's corporate leadership said the issue had been resolved at the local level. The damage was done. The precedent was set. Case 2, McDonald's. A franchise location in downtown Minneapolis put a sign on its front door, bold, impossible to miss, saying that ICE and CBP agents were not welcome. It was not subtle. It was not ambiguous. It was a statement. McDonald's corporate later told Fox News Digital that it had instructed the franchisee to remove the sign, but the message had already been sent and the image had already traveled across the internet. Case 3. A restaurant near the scene of Renee Good's killing, a tragic case tied to the broader immigration enforcement controversy in the city, had a bright, bold sign on its front door turning away immigration agents. Employees inside were wearing clothing with anti-ICE messaging. The business had made itself a statement. What you are seeing is a pattern, a coordinated public deliberate refusal by a subset of businesses to serve federal law enforcement. And now the Trump administration is drawing a line. The question is, where does this end? Let us get into the legal dimension of this, because it is more complex than either side wants to admit, and understanding it is key to understanding why this story matters beyond Minneapolis. First, can a business legally refuse service to law enforcement officers? This is where it gets genuinely complicated. Public accommodation laws in the United States generally prohibit discrimination based on protected characteristics: race, religion, national origin, sex, disability, and similar categories. Law enforcement status is not, in most jurisdictions, a protected class. So technically, a private business refusing to serve a cop or a federal agent is not automatically illegal under standard civil rights law, but, and this is a large but, it may still create serious legal and contractual exposure. When 7-Eleven, Speedway, Hampton Inn, or McDonald's enters into an agreement to accept GSA SmartPay fleet cards or to be listed as an approved federal lodging location, they are entering into a contractual relationship with the federal government. That relationship comes with expectations, it comes with obligations, and it comes with the understanding that federal employees, including law enforcement, will be served. If a location breaches that understanding, the government has significant leverage. It can remove them from the program. It can redirect federal spending. It can publicly signal that the company is not a cooperative partner. All of that is exactly what we are seeing play out right now. There's also a second legal question swirling around this story: obstruction of federal operations. Now, a store manager refusing to sell a snack is a far cry from physically blocking an arrest, but the broader pattern of organizing to interfere with federal immigration enforcement has drawn the attention of the Deputy Attorney General, who has publicly referenced what officials describe as a massive underground fraud network allegedly connected to the anti-ICE push in Minneapolis. That is a separate and serious allegation, one we will track closely as it develops. At the end of the day, the legal picture is this: private businesses have broad discretion in who they serve. The federal government has broad discretion in who it does business with. And when those two overlap, as they do with fleet cards and approved lodging programs, the power balance shifts heavily toward Washington. Here is the deeper truth underneath all of these headlines. America is in the middle of a culture war. You know this. I know this. Everyone watching this video knows this. And for years, for a long time, that culture war has been fought primarily in the political arena, in universities, in newsrooms, and online. But now it has moved into the marketplace itself. Businesses are being pressured, sometimes by customers, sometimes by employees, sometimes by activist networks, to take public political stances, to put signs in their windows, to refuse service based on who a customer works for, to turn the transaction into a political act. And on the other side, the federal government is saying, you want to play politics? Fine. So will we. This is not without precedent. Remember when states and cities began boycotting businesses over political decisions? Remember the debates over whether corporations should take sides on abortion, gun laws, or elections? The logic has always cut in multiple directions. And now, under the Trump administration, the federal government itself is wielding its economic power as a political tool, using contract access, purchasing programs, and public pressure to send a message. Whether you think that is appropriate depends significantly on where you stand politically. But here is the nonpartisan reality. The federal government is one of the single largest consumers in the entire American economy. When it decides to use that purchasing power as leverage against businesses, against states, against anyone, the impact is immediate and massive. The Hampton Inn Lakeville did not get removed from an irrelevant list. It got removed from the federal lodging program. That is real money, real bookings, real revenue, gone. 7-Eleven is not facing a social media pile-on. It is facing the potential loss of its GSA fleet card partnership. That is a network covering 95% of U.S. fuel stations. That is a significant slice of commercial activity linked to federal vehicles. The culture war just got a price tag, and American businesses are now doing At the time of this report, 7-Eleven has not responded to Fox News Digital's inquiry regarding the GSA letter, so we do not know what their internal response has been. But let's think through what their options are, because this is the part of the story that corporate America across the country is watching very closely. Option 1. Cooperate fully with the GSA investigation, clarify and reinforce their policies internally, discipline or terminate the employee or manager responsible, and issue a public statement affirming their commitment to serving all customers, including federal employees. This is the path of least resistance. This is what McDonald's essentially did when it had corporate direct the franchisee to remove the anti-ICE sign. It limits the damage, restores the relationship, and moves on. Option 2, stonewall. Say nothing meaningful. Let the situation drift. This is the highest risk option financially and contractually. The GSA letter is explicit that timely cooperation matters. Silence will be interpreted as either defiance or complicity. Option 3, push back publicly. Defend the manager's actions as a matter of free expression or local autonomy. This path would be politically combustible. 7-Eleven is a global franchise operation. It cannot afford to be seen as taking sides in U.S. domestic immigration policy debates, especially not in a way that puts federal contracts at risk. The smart money, both literally and figuratively, is on option 1. McDonald's showed the playbook. Hilton tried a version of it. The businesses that survive these moments are the ones who separate their corporate brand from the political statements of individual employees and franchise locations. Because at the end of the day, 7-Eleven is not in the business of immigration policy. It is in the business of selling Slurpees. Let me zoom out and tell you what I think this story is really about. This is about whether America can function as a unified nation when its citizens and its businesses are this divided. It is about whether the rule of law applies equally when politics gets in the way. It is about whether federal agents can do their jobs without being turned away from a gas station like they are second-class citizens in the country they serve. Commander Bovino is a federal officer. He took an oath. He puts on a uniform and he goes to work in some of the most difficult immigration enforcement environments in the country. And on January 21st, all he wanted was to stop at a gas station in America. And he was told he was not welcome. Some of you will cheer that store manager. Some of you will be appalled by what they did. That is the reality of where we are as a country right now. But I want to ask you a question regardless of where you land politically. What happens to a society when its public spaces, its businesses, its services become political checkpoints, when you have to declare your political identity before you can buy a sandwich or fill up a tank? Where does that road lead? The Trump administration is drawing a clear line. You want federal contracts, you want federal dollars, you serve federal employees. Full stop. And whether you agree with every immigration policy of this administration or not, there is a principle at stake here that most Americans across the political spectrum will recognize. Federal officers enforcing the law deserve to be treated with basic dignity. Not hero worship, not special privileges, just basic human dignity, the kind you extend to any customer who walks through your door. That is not a Republican position. That is not a Trump position. That is an American position. Here is where things stand right now. The GSA letter has been sent. 7-Eleven has not publicly responded. The fleet card partnership is under review. The Trump administration has sent a message to every business in America that holds a federal contract, accepts federal payment cards, or sits on an approved government services list. Play politics with your federal obligations, and we will play economics with your federal relationship. This story is not over. It is just getting started. We will be watching what 7-Eleven does next. We will be watching what happens to the fleet card partnership. We will be watching whether other businesses in Minneapolis and across the country rethink the cost of making their storefronts into political billboards. And we will continue to ask the questions that matter, not just for conservatives, not just for the Trump base, but for every American who wants to live in a country where the law means something, where federal agents can do their jobs, and where a gas station is just a gas station. Hit that subscribe button, drop your thoughts in the comments, share this video if it said something that needed to be said. I will see you in the next one.